Experience.
Pat Mayo Experience. Pat Mayo Experience. Pat Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, live on YouTube right now, and of course you can watch on demand whenever you want on the video channel, or if you subscribe to the podcast, iTunes, Stitcher, Podomatic, Audio Boom, Google Play, Stitcher, all those places you can download the Pat Mayo Experience. Before we get started, do not be afraid to smash that like button. It goes a long way to help keeping the show free. Plus, I can give you the winners for the $20 DK giveaways. May take 8 to 12 weeks for it to show up into your account, but hey, you're going to be a winner. Maybe you'll be tomorrow. Who knows? We'll see. I'm trying to get on top of these things. But the winners from week 2 of the $20 DK giveaway, we got Ghost Monkey. We got B-Scoop13. Team Big Weenie. Congratulations to you, Big Weenie. Jamal Fella and Muckle_Shuffle. Those are your 5 winners of the 20 DK dollars, and hopefully you can put it to good use because we saw a lot of people, a lot of screeners coming to me after week 2 during the DK contest. A lot of winners out there, guys, just on the precipice of one gigantic win. I think the biggest one I saw this weekend was around $9,000 and just a few points out of first place to win like $100,000 or $50,000. It was exciting to see. A lot of green screens out there. So let's try to get into week 3 and get everything rolling. Jake Ciely from The Athletic will be joining me momentarily once he gets his technology figured out. And I guess I'll let you know that if you hit the description right now, you can find my entire rankings for the waiver wire column and all the injuries suffered in week 2. It's all in sort of jot note form. This is where we're going to really dig into everything. And what else do we got on the go here? Your questions, we'll be getting to those a little bit later on. In fact, I might even take some here just to start off the show to get us really in the mood for doing all this stuff. Plus, the running back snap counts are up on my Twitter feed, Facebook page, and on the in the column as well if you just wanted to check those out. They're hard to find. I've gathered them all into one place if you just want to see who plays a ton of snaps, what the distribution between everyone was like. Guess what? Phillip Lindsay playing a lot of snaps, not a ton, and Royce Freeman also not playing a ton of snaps, but getting all the goal line work. It's really bizarre how things are shaking out in Denver. I'm curious to get Jake's thoughts on the matter because he's a big Royce Freeman guy. So we'll see how that goes. I'm going to jump into the chat right now, see if I can take a few questions. And we got, none really, just people bragging about themselves being 2-0. I'll get into the injuries for the running back position. We'll just dive into the running back position anyway. First up at running back, we'll talk about the injuries like I mentioned. LeSean McCoy is dealing with a rib problem. Very early Monday morning, it was reported like it was broken ribs. And then they had to put a retractment on it, Ian Rappaport at least, that it's not broken ribs and that he's going to try to play all the way through against the Vikings next week. But the snap share for him is not looking great anyway. This offense did look a lot better under Josh Allen. Not to say that it looked good, but it looked a lot better than it did when Nate Peterman was going on. So the big thing with him is it looks like from a running perspective, if McCoy misses time, and he might, we don't know yet. It seems nonsensical when you're the worst team in the league. This is the best player on your team, theoretically, and you have banged up ribs. This just seems like a spot, especially against an attacking, solid defense like the Vikings, that it just probably going to lead to re-injury. Like, well, what's the point of rushing LeSean McCoy out there? Just trade him at this point if that's going to be the case. If you're going to play him through injury when you're a team that's in danger of going 0-16, makes very little sense. So on the ground and on the goal line, it does appear like Chris Ivory will be the one that will take over those duties. But Marcus Murphy is going to be involved in the receiving game. He's returning punts for the team. He muffed that punt in the Chargers game yesterday. Doesn't really seem to change anything for them. It's not like they have a depth of talent in Buffalo right now, but it seemed like it would be a split between those. Ivory be the one more likely to end up getting the goal line touches, like I mentioned, the carries on the ground. But in the passing game where the Bills are constantly losing, Murphy might be the better PPR ad here, at least from a floor perspective moving forward. So I'm interested to see how that shakes out and what the notes are on LeSean McCoy throughout the week, only because we're going to get updates. Obviously, we're not going to know Monday morning what the extent of any of these injuries are, so you kind of have to game plan. We're not going to know by Tuesday night waivers either. That's very unlikely as well, so you have to give your best guess as it pertains to this. Melvin Gordon suffered an upper body injury. He exited the game, and apparently he's going to be ready for week 3. It was just they were up, so don't worry about it. Austin Eckler still proving to be quite valuable to own, whether Gordon is in or out. Eckler is getting his work, and there's plenty to go around for Melvin Gordon as well, especially from the goal line perspective. Whenever they get into the red zone, it just seems like they're very content with using both of them, and there's enough volume in that offense because it's so high-paced that Austin Eckler is a viable PPR player. And even standard, he should probably be owned at this point, too. It's tough to start him in any given week, but you know if you do start him that he has the potential to score like 20 points with a floor of like 7 or 8 in a PPR, and that's like on a bad week. So it's nice to know that you can have that asset on your bench. He's not really a week winner unless Melvin Gordon ever does go out. However, Austin Eckler is someone almost like in the Theo Riddick mold that if you're in a pinch and you need a running back too because of injuries or bye weeks or you need a flex, he's someone that's going to score you. He's someone that's going to score you, not 0 points, which is key in a lot of deeper leagues. In a 10-team league, you probably don't need him. In like a 14-team league, very valuable asset to have on your bench. Other injuries, Dalvin Cook suffered a hamstring injury in overtime against the Packers. He says it's cramping. I've been reading some of the doctors. I like following the doctors on Twitter. They got good insight to this stuff, that soft tissue injury like a hamstring could be the cause of coming back after so long from an ACL. I'm always worried about these hamstrings. He says he's fine, but we'll see. And they play the Bills at home next week. They've already opened as like 16.5-point favorites. Not sure they really need Dalvin Cook, so as you'll see in the waiver wire running back rankings, I actually have elevated Latavius Murray because it just might be a spot where what's the point of playing Cook? And we'll see from the practice reports throughout the week. It could turn out to be nothing. It could turn out to be something. But if you're going to have a starting running back against the Bills, probably something you want to look into. So it's not dump all your fab on Latavius Murray, but he's someone that might just fly under the radar a little bit if we don't know the full extent of the Cook news, that if he's not owned, and he's not owned in a vast majority of leagues, that he's someone just to grab, potentially a plug and play. He'd be a top 10 option, top 15 option. Well, that's temper expectations here. A top 15 option at home against Buffalo next week. So that's a guy that you would pick up. Leonard Fournette in the hamstring, missed the game, obviously. It was a split between Grant, and it was a split between TJ Yeldon. I was hoping for the split for TJ Yeldon, a little bit more pronounced, but Grant got himself working in the receiving game and looked really good in that facet. So Fournette's probably going to be back next week. If he's not, expect another split. Yeldon on the better end of that. Joe Mixon underwent a knee scope to get that cleaned out. He's expected to miss 2 to 4 weeks, hence why you'll see Gio Bernard. Up in the waiver wire power rankings, Devonta Freeman, he missed week 2. He's expected to miss 2 to 3 weeks, meaning Tevin Coleman will continue to see the bulk of the work for the Atlanta Falcons. They play Cincinnati. No, they do not play Cincinnati this week. Who the hell did the Falcons play this week? Carolina plays Cincinnati. I was looking at the Gio Bernard schedule, and then I got everything all mixed up in my mind. Atlanta in week 3 plays, you should know this, New Orleans. All right, so there's a good spot for Tevin Coleman right there. Other injuries, we have Darren Sproles' hamstring injury, sat week 2, and then Jay Ajayi got hurt with a back injury, left the game, came back, ended up scoring a touchdown. If Sproles is back, it just throws another wrench into the situation that Ajayi is really turning into a touchdown or absolute bust type player. Fortunately, he's top 10 in the league in red zone carries right now, and he scored a touchdown, or he scored 3 touchdowns in 2 games. So far, he's doing his end to keep up his fantasy value. I just worry about what happens if they don't score. If he doesn't score a touchdown, what happens? He's going to be like running back number 50 for the week because just the volume is not there for him. And then Jordan Wilkins suffered an ankle injury in that Colts game. He did return and look fine. He's expected to play and be ready for week 3 against the Eagles. Paul, we got Jake yet or what? No Jake yet. Fun stuff. All right, well, let's get into this. I'm gonna send Jake a text as we go along here. Oh, it looks like he's trying. All right, well, we'll have Jake on standby. See if we got any questions in there before I get to the rankings, because I would like to debate it out with Jake just a little bit.
Speak in 1 second.
James, well, I'm going to get you work on that. I'm going to answer some questions. This is from James Brown. James Brown, hot tub. We got Kareem Hunt. Are you worried about Kareem Hunt? Yeah, not especially. I mean, he ended up scoring a touchdown. He played, I believe it was 70%. It was either 69 or 74% of the snaps. I'll get the official number on that right now. Let's see. Kansas City, we had Kareem Hunt, 69, nice % of the snaps for Kareem Hunt. He's not going to have the bulk volume on the ground, but he finished I believe it was top 5 in terms of rushing attempts for the week. He's the guy. So, I mean, Jake, you're on the line?
I'm here.
Oh, there you are. Jake Ciely from The Athletic is on the line. Are you worried about Kareem Hunt?
In what way?
No, there's no way. There is no parameter set on this. James Brown asks, the father of soul asks, are you worried about Kareem Hunt? I'm not.
I'm not. I think that you look at the first 2 weeks, it's just been a passing heavy attack. I don't think I'm worried about Kareem Hunt because if you look at the snap count, he's there. He's getting the vast majority of the snaps and touches for the running back. It's just, this is what's happened the first 2 weeks. Patrick Mahomes is not going to go out there and average 5 passing touchdowns per week.
The next question comes from, we're going to take some running back questions for the moment. There's like 3 in a row, all pertaining to David Johnson. What do we do with David Johnson? David Johnson is a big worry. Would you even want to buy low? I would want to buy low on David Johnson. I don't know what they're doing in Arizona. They look putrid, and I don't understand how Arizona can be down by so much the entire game, and David Johnson finishes the contest with 0 targets. That makes no sense. You have to feel like they're going to adjust to this.
I don't think they're necessarily going to. I think it's slight panic mode, honestly, because this is the McCoy situation. It's McCoy as the offensive coordinator is not passing to the running back and not using him such. We kind of said, yeah, it'll be fine. It'll be different because he knows this time. But you go back to the Melvin Gordon situation. Melvin Gordon basically doubled his targets, receptions, and yards once he left. And now he's come over and he's doing the same thing to David Johnson. He just doesn't pass to the running back. And I said, I agree with you. I think it's crazy. I think there's enough people out there that say it's crazy, but sometimes coaches obviously aren't listening to us. So
no,
I have to say that I am slightly concerned. I could see a scenario this year because how poor the offense is. Now, I also think having Josh Rosen at quarterback would help. But between how bad Bradford's looked and he's not thrown to the running back and there's not designed plays, he's not even lining up in the line of scrimmage. David Johnson, I'm legitimately, I give myself a 4 out of 10 on concern level.
4 out of 10. That's not out of this world concerning. 4 out of 10. You're bridging on panic mode. Now, if you drafted inside the top 5 or like number 3 or 2 overall, then we got substantial problems. Fortunately, he's healthy, so that's always a good thing. He's outscoring Le'Veon Bell right now, which is really nice. But okay, so guys, who would you rather have rest of the season, Gurley or David Johnson?
Gurley. It's not even a question
at
this point.
Just say yes or no. I know the answer is Gurley. Alvin Kamara or David Johnson?
Kamara.
Kareem Hunt or David Johnson? I'd rather have David Johnson than that. I'd rather gamble on the upside of David Johnson because we know
that's
about Hunt.
Yeah, that's pretty much exactly what my answer would be.
Okay, Melvin Gordon or Johnson? I'd want Melvin Gordon.
I'm taking Melvin Gordon at this point.
Zeke or DJ? I got this one wrong. The answer is Zeke.
It is Zeke.
Saquon Barkley or David Johnson? It looks like Saquon Barkley is everything we thought David Johnson could be in this crappy Arizona offense. Saquon Barkley is in the Giants offense.
Yeah, that PPR night last night was disgusting. Yeah, so it's Saquon Barkley.
Jordan Howard or David Johnson?
I'll take David Johnson for the upside.
Christian McCaffrey or David Johnson? I think I'd take McCaffrey.
In a full PPR, I'm taking McCaffrey. In a standard, I would still go David Johnson.
I don't even know about that. I mean, I still think that the value for David Johnson is more pronounced in a PPR. Because if he's not being the king of PPR scoring, then he's just not going to be that good because his standard numbers were good, don't get me wrong, but if he's not going to score a bunch of touchdowns and gain a bunch on the ground, he has to do it through the receiving game. So if anything's going to equal itself out, he needs to be someone that averages like 5-6 receptions a game.
Well, see, that's where I'm saying I think the upside, I think the offense is better than this. I know the Arizona Cardinals are one of the worst 5 teams in the NFL, but again, they're going to change to Josh Rosen at some point, and it's probably coming soon. Sam Bradford can't keep playing they can't keep going back to him. The whole point was they thought they might even have a potential to start Rosen week 1, and it was one of those, hey, you know what? We spent all that money, but that's sometimes what happens, and you drafted the player, and he's better. But these first 2 games, I would be surprised if Bradford goes out there week 3, first of all, if he's even out there week 3, and he plays like this, Josh Rosen's going to be starting by week 4.
Would you take James Conner or David Johnson?
That really depends on your team. If you have the running back depth, I'm getting rid of James Conner right now because it's a ticking time bomb. As soon as Le'Veon Bell decides to walk back in that door, the value goes out the window. And James Conner looks like he will continue to get touches and probably fall into an RB3 flex value, but that's a huge knock of what you have right now. It's just potential top 10 running back. So it really depends on your team. I'd probably go for David Johnson for the longevity, but if you wanted to keep Conner, I don't care.
What do you think the chances are that Le'Veon Bell just doesn't come back?
Until week 11?
Or just that Pittsburgh says, screw it, we don't want you back?
They already offered the tender. It's on him to sign it. They can't.
But even if he does sign it, I mean, they're not on the hook for that much.
Oh, they just have him stand on the sideline?
Yeah.
I think that's a possibility, or that he doesn't get the touches that he would before. But I think if they're in the playoff contention, he'll get his touches.
Yeah. I worry about this James Conner thing. You're right. Ticking time bomb's probably the way to go, but it's so great for right now if you have James Conner.
It's terrific, right? We all look. A lot of us, including myself, I'll admittedly sat there and said he'll be back by Labor Day weekend. I didn't think there was, because I thought it was like a 5% chance something would happen, and I was completely wrong. But the James Conner one is by drafting him just in case you fell into a top 10 running back. So yes, it is amazing to have.
So what is there a trade market for Conner, or are you just, if you have him, you ride him until it's good, and then when it's not good, you're like, hey, I picked this guy up anyway, no big deal, I'll just try to figure it out from there? Or do you try to get value out of him? And if I had James Conner and I offered someone James Conner for David Johnson, do you think that they would accept that trade?
I think you get some people out there who would, and I think that's a legitimate trade. That's the kind of trades you need to be looking at. And I am trying to trade him in a couple leagues that I have where I don't have Le'Veon Bell. If I have Le'Veon Bell, what's the point of trading him? And then you're just gonna be like, all right, I got rid of him and hoping that Le'Veon Bell comes. Same thing. I've seen people like, should I trade James Conner for Le'Veon Bell? No, you want both of them. You don't get rid of one to get the other. But if you have James Conner and you don't have Le'Veon Bell and you're trying to trade him to the Bell owner or even somebody else who needs running back help, you need RB1 value. And I'm talking fringe. You don't have to get like a Todd Gurley return. But to your point, if you go get David Johnson, you're shooting for that upside. That's something you could do. If you go out there and buy low in a wide receiver last week, it's too late now, but last week, like maybe go get yourself a Chris Hogan and a Derrick Henry and buy low on both of them, because you can withstand the drop off at running back to get the help at wide receiver. Like, these are the kind of trades you need to be looking at.
I mean, if it was Conner versus David Johnson rest of the season, I would take David Johnson, but I don't even know if that's right. James Conner, the way that it's working out for him, if he gets the 10 games, let's say, and Bell comes back week 11, you get the first 10 games out of James Conner. He's going to be a top 5 running back for those first 10 games of the season. That value might be enough that it gets you into the playoffs because he's been so good, added to the rest of your team. Well, great. Let's say you didn't have Bell. You picked up Conner, and then you could be potentially rolling out like Kamara and Conner every single week. Like, that's going to get you to like 7-3, 8-2, 6-4 probably at the worst by having 2 of the top 5 running backs in fantasy football. That it might be worth it to build up those wins. And then if he goes away, he goes away. You're already in the playoffs. Just figure stuff out for weeks 14, 15, and 16.
It is, but also you don't want to not have a piece for the playoffs. So
I know. I agree. You want to have the piece for the playoffs, but at the same time, I want to get to the playoffs too. And I feel like if you give up James Conner and you could have got 10 weeks out of James Conner, it might just be worth it. Like, it's no different than a running back playing the first 10 weeks and getting injured at that point. But he got you there, and that's all you really wanted.
Well, again, that's why I would say you only trade for RB1 value. You don't trade them if you're going to get less than that. And some people out there have been making reasonable trade offers for him, and like that's really not helping you. Like, it's only if you're going to get away from him and you're going to get that RB1 to replace your roster, that's fine. But don't go out there and say, okay, well, go back to the Derrick Henry situation. Just 2 players from that team. Well, I got Corey Davis and Derrick Henry, and I gave up James Conner and Jamison Crowder. Like, that's a fair trade in general. That doesn't really do much for you.
Yeah, I mean, I would just keep James Conner if those were the 2 guys.
Exactly.
Like those 2 sort of 2-for-1s. Yeah, I would shoot for the moon with James Conner and try to get an elite player. If you can't get him, just hold on to him. What do we do with Bell? If you don't have Bell, should you try to be trading for Bell? Let's say you're 2-0.
I'm trading for Bell where it's not going to cost me anything in my starting lineup. So, I mean, you're going to lowball, and there's some teams that have the depth that fell into the right situation, but that's basically what I'm looking at is if I could trade off bench pieces. Maybe you went out and you already grabbed Philip Lindsay, and so you have running back depth now, and you've been playing Philip Lindsay and Dion Lewis back and forth, and you give up a Dion Lewis and I don't know, a decent wide receiver to go back to Corey Davis. Like, those kind of trades, and that is a huge lowball offer for Le'Veon Bell. But the reason it's a low ball, that's why you're doing that, is because Le'Veon Bell, as we're talking about, could be out till week 11. You can't take that kind of risk on your team and trade away a starter, and then you're sitting in that situation that all the Le'Veon Bell owners are sitting in right now.
And it's going to be really tough. Like, people will say, hey, who can I trade for Le'Veon Bell? it's really going to be dependent on the Bell owner in your league. If the Bell owner in your league started 2-0, they're probably content with just holding on to Le'Veon Bell and waiting this out. Or if it's someone who's 0-2, they might sell him for a whole lot less. It really depends on who owns Bell in your league and how panicky they tend to get. So in conclusion, see if you can just get Bell for as little as possible. I'm okay giving up a starter for him depending on who the starter is. No one inside, let's say, the top 40 players overall. And with James Conner, you want to shoot for elite. And David Johnson, still a top 10 running back, but he's probably, unless this offense changes and they throw it the first 2 weeks and say, you know what, we're going to go back to making David Johnson someone who gets 15 carries and sees at least 8 targets a game, which is what we were hoping for. He's probably going to be running back like 7 or 8 until that happens. Then he could vault himself back up into the top 5. So I do think that he is a decent buy low candidate right now, depending on what you can get for him. Let's say I had Adam Thielen, and I think that's a trade that could go through, depending on how panicky the David Johnson owner would be in your league. I give you Alan Thielen. I give you Adam Thielen. You give me David Johnson. I would make that trade. I would give up Thielen in that circumstance to gamble on David Johnson, but I think a lot of people would accept that trade.
I think you would a lot. I'm with you on that. I could see going both directions with that. I could see the fact that if you want to get David Johnson, I could see the David Johnson owner having running back depth and being a little bit concerned and wanting to get out of that, because let's look at it the other direction. We're campaigning here. I am at least more so. I think you're with me, but campaigning for the fact that David Johnson's a great buy low opportunity right now. But he comes out, let's have another bad week. And then week 4, they change the Rosen and nothing changes because McCoy doesn't like passing to the running back. And we continue to go down this road. The value is going to drop week by week by week by week, where somebody gets out of it now. Then you're like, okay, I got out of it close to his peak value.
Yeah, but it's no different than buying stocks or anything like that. That we know what when we look at the range of outcomes for David Johnson, and can it get worse than what it is right now? I mean, yesterday was about as bad as it's going to get all season long, barring injury. Like, he played fewer than 80% of the snaps, which is mind-boggling because he should be playing like 95%. He played 78 yesterday. That's his floor in terms of like snap share, basically splitting with Chase Edmonds. He had 0 targets. That should never happen for probably the best, or at least one of the 3 best pass-catching running backs in the NFL. They have to figure this out. His value could drop lower. I agree, but I don't want to. I would rather catch it now in case it goes back up. Then all of a sudden, no one's trading David Johnson.
Yeah, but you're putting logic on the situation where McCoy has a history of not using his running backs that way, and it's the stuff that we're sitting here and saying like this should happen. And we've said this before, time and time again in all sports. We sit there with the armchair quarterback. This is what should happen, and the coaches don't do what we should say. Go back to Lamar Miller with the Dolphins. Give him more touches, and it never happened. And so you can't force the hand. Like, the biggest issue here is we want McCoy fired.
Yes, that is true. We do want McCoy fired in this sense. As Jeff Feinberg calls him, he looks like Ellen DeGeneres, so maybe you should just go host a talk show, not coach in the NFL anymore. Guy has a really bad track record of success, by the way.
Oh, yeah, but hey, retreads in the NFL, man.
Sometimes it works out. Other times, guys just probably shouldn't be coordinators anymore. The game has passed them by, or whatever they're up to, not really working. And maybe it's not all like that. Offensive line is banged up. Sam Bradford kind of reeks. Like, that team's not very good anyway.
No, that's no. Like I said, free Josh Rosen, fire Mike McCoy, and we'll be good.
All right, waiver wire rankings at running back heading into week 3. I put Gio Bernard at number 1 because it looks like he's going to get at least 2 games. They're tougher matchups against Carolina, against Atlanta, but we just saw Tevin Coleman succeed against the Panthers and their stout run defense. So it just seems like in a situation where they had to deal with with a passing attack from the Falcons, that it looks like week 1 against the Cowboys couldn't pass, so they could commit everything to shutting down Zeke. Last week against Tevin Coleman, they couldn't just account for Coleman. So I think that Bernard's going to be somewhat the same way because the Bengals passing attack has actually looked quite good. Bernard's going to get all the touches, basically. He's probably going to play like 75, 80% of the snaps. I don't know if I would use a number 1 waiver priority on him if I needed that. And I needed the running back help. I wouldn't spend like all my fab because as soon as Mixon comes back, Gio Bernard is gone. But you might be able to get 2, potentially 3 or 4 weeks of a fringy running back 1, especially in PPR formats, just off the waiver wire if he's not unowned. And he's available in like 61% of leagues. So I'm for it. I would use a number 1 waiver priority on him.
I would too, especially because if nothing else, you don't necessarily even need running back help. Somebody needs it. I mean, we've had a lot of running backs so far already get hurt or already missing time. Or I know you talked about him before with LaShawn McCoy, where he's going to play through the ribs, although that report's already been disputed a little bit there. So the fact is that you need running back help already. Somebody out there is going to need running back help already, even if you have the depth. You turn it into a trade chip. You got at least an RB2 for this time being. There's a lot of ways this is spin. You could have a setback too, and all of a sudden you have a running back two for more than just 2 or 3 weeks.
So next on the list, that would be let's play this game. Number 1 waiver priority game. Last week there was actually nobody. I think that's the conclusion that we came to. Even with the TJ Yeldon stuff, like you're not burning a number 1 waiver priority on TJ Yeldon just to have him for 1 week and then Fournette comes back. This week I'm good with Gio. Would you spend a number 1 waiver priority on Breida, Phillip Lindsay, or Phillip Lindsay? Either one of those two.
No, that's it. That's the only two.
Well, I have Latavius Murray at number 4 as a hedge against Cook if he doesn't play, but I wouldn't spend a number 1 on him, and no one would.
No, I wouldn't either. And I understand that's a hedge if like Cook doesn't play, which is why there's guys behind him that I would prefer to pick up. I think that Cook is going to be fine, but obviously there's a chance that he's not. But number 1. Maybe Breida, just because, the offense and how everything's worked. And it's not just a big play. I mean, you take that away, Breida's looked better in that backfield. There's a chance.
It's too big. It was 2 big plays yesterday for Breida. And even when we look at the snap share, Alfred Morris still played 48% of the snaps. Breida was 41%. Like, Alpha's still out there. That's still a legitimate timeshare.
That's where I was going, and I said he's looked better back there. I know you jump all over me for that, but the fact is Matt Breida is better for that offense, and I could see those snap counts swinging into his direction. I don't think it's necessarily going to be like, hey, let's just keep using Alfred Morris if Breida's more effective. I don't know. Like, if I'm running back needy, I'm going with Breida. Look, you can't wait around and say, well, hopefully somebody else, like, let's go back to David Johnson. Nobody owns Chase Edmonds. Maybe David Johnson's going to get hurt and I could go pick up Chase Edmonds. Well, first of all, Chase Edmonds should be owned right now anyway, but you got to go down that road and say, how long are you going to wait for help? Like, you got to keep waiting and saving that. If you need running back help, you need running back help. So I could see blowing it on Breida. I could see it Lindsay in a PPR because he is Danny Woodhead. And, funnily enough, yesterday, somebody thought calling him Danny Woodhead was like a smack in the face. Like, that's actually a compliment.
Danny Woodhead, 3-time top 10 PPR running back?
Exactly. Like, this guy started losing his mind about how disrespectful calling him Danny Woodhead was. Did you not remember Danny Woodhead?
Someone on the internet got triggered by something that is something that they took completely out of context. Color me stunned. I am shocked by that. I have never experienced anything like that. I always thought that the discourse on the internet was very smart, very engaging, and very respectful. Those are the 3 things that I would think about internet discourse.
Yeah, that's pretty much, that's why you go there. Twitter is a safe space.
Yeah, exactly. It's my safe space. But I'm constantly around people who are hotheads, so it's actually nice to dial it back and see people that are just constantly triggered all the time. In that offense, if we're talking about handcuffs backups, would you go Malcolm Brown for the Rams as Gurley's backup, or would you go Chase Edmonds as DJ's backup? Because I would take Brown right now. Gurley is dealing with cramping issues. He's going to be fine, but I don't love to see that.
Yeah, I would go with Chase Edmonds only because I know that he is the backup option. You got to remember, I know John Kelly was number 4 on the depth chart and he wasn't active week 1, all that type of stuff. But still, John Kelly was running as the number 2 and looked better in the preseason. I thought it was crazy because I said, what's happening right now? This team likes Malcolm Brown. But at the same time, I don't know that. Again, it comes down to the other options on the team. I think John Kelly would see work if anything were to happen to Todd Gurley. Whereas if you go to Arizona, I think Chase Edmonds sees the David Johnson role where you're talking about 65, 70%.
I mean, that's a very good argument to have, too. And like you said, it could, for all we know, they're just keeping John Kelly fresh in case something happens to Gurley and Malcolm Brown would just continue to play the role. As we see it right now, Brown is the one playing, so it would logically end up being him. But we'll see how that plays out. Edmonds is probably the right call, though, in that situation. The Denver situation, I just worry that it's sort of like the advanced Colts situation that, yeah, Lindsey's looked really good, but he's not getting a ton of touches. Freeman's getting the red zone work, and Devontae Booker played 33% of the snaps. He's still playing passing downs as well. They're using legit 3 guys in this offense in the backfield. So I just worry about the upside every single week for any of them. Is the upside that they present in the limited amount of volume, or at least the capped volume that they're going to get, worth the downside if they have a down game, which could be 0 points?
No, the set. That's why the only person I really want in this backfield right now is Lindsey in the PPR, because with Freeman, you're hoping for the goal line and you're hoping for the goal line score, which you got yesterday. You almost got two. That's what I was really hoping for yesterday. Didn't happen, but at least Lindsey's getting that consistent. They're all getting consistent touches. It's just the fact that they're splitting between the three of them. And with those consistent touches, though, because Lindsey is, go back to Danny Woodhead in that role where, hey, 10 to 12 touches per game, I'm going to give you RB2 value in PPR. That's the one I rely on. If we're talking non-PPR, they're all kind of concerning. And then in that case, the only one I want is Royce Freeman, because I'm hoping that he actually gets a touchdown. But now you're looking at the fact of everything we're talking about here. What if he doesn't get the touchdown? 5-6 points on the day. Okay, so it's a flex running back. Maybe that's okay for you week to week, but I'd rather stay away if possible. This is another one. I want this team to just go away from Devontae Booker. Just make it a Freeman-Lindsey situation, and we'll all be fine. But it's just another one where we're sitting here saying, what the heck are you doing? And we can't do anything to control that.
Yeah, snap share in Denver from week 2. Booker actually saw an uptick in his snap shares. 42% Phillip Lindsay, 33% Devontae Booker, 24% Royce Freeman. Royce Freeman right now is like minor league Jay Ajayi in the way that what he needs to accomplish on the field to be a relevant fantasy player, that he has to score touchdowns. And at least Ajayi probably is going to end up, if he doesn't get hurt every single game, he'll end up with more touches on a more consistent basis.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we're looking at here. At least we'll fill this situation. We don't have the injured Jay Ajayi from his waist down.
Yeah, it's now just his back.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. His back, it's his knee, and his knee is never going to go away, and it's something else next week. And Jay Ajayi is like put together with like string at this point.
The reason that I ranked Latavius Murray at number 4, and people can either use this or not use this, he's just someone that I'll try to be targeting for cheap off the waiver wire, because I don't think that if he's previously owned, then he's previously owned. If he's not, maybe the Dalvin Cook owner really goes out of his way to go get him. But like anytime, this happened with Fournette last week too. Like anytime that I see soft tissue injury, I see a hamstring problem, guys generally miss a week, and it's usually better if they do miss that week. And what the hell do they need Dalvin Cook at home against the Bills for?
You know, this is something we talked about heading into the season, as in Dalvin Cook by himself of limited touches, because they want him for the stretch run, because they don't need to kill him and run him into the ground if they're going to be in the playoffs as a Super Bowl hopeful team. So this is something that we were a little bit concerned, like the limited of touches. And then you see this in the first 2 weeks, that you have to have that little bit of concern in the back of your mind. I'm with you in the fact that I can see them sitting him for week 3, but if I'm thinking long term, they're only going to do that for like, okay, let's just make sure he's 100%. And we're not going to see him out week 4 and then out week 5. That's why I would go with some of the guys behind that, depending on what you need. You know, if you just need a fill-in, if you just need something for this week, okay, fine. But for the fact that Bilal Powell looks, and I hate we're going down the Bilal Powell road again, but he continues to be the best running back for the Jets. If you want to go further down the list, there's other options down here where you can get more long-term effect. Plus, I think Latavius Murray is a little bit higher owned than most people realize.
He is, but he's, as a part of these rankings, he's still the sub 60% ownership. You have to cap it somewhere. I cap it at 60, so he is available in some leagues. In deeper leagues, he's not.
But in a full PPR, I'm taking Eckler every single day.
I'm just, like, you have to put these into context. Like, Bernard and Murray are play now type guys. Like, I need a running back this week, potentially next week. I mean, Bernard, we know, is going to have more value because Mixon's actually going to be out. With Dalvin Cook, we don't know, but you might get a start out of Latavius Murray. Like Bilal Powell, Austin Eckler, and Buck Allen would be the 3 guys. I know Aaron Jones is there. We'll talk about him in a second, but those 3 guys, we know what their rules are in this offense. It's going to fluctuate week to week. Some weeks they're going to be really good, but they're all kind of floor players at the same time in terms of PPR scoring. And Buck Allen's getting like the goal line work for the Ravens, which is kind of crazy. Although he keeps scoring, so maybe they're on to something that I just don't know about. Although Alex Collins looked really good and has been super efficient. He had 12 touches on Thursday night and almost got to 100 yards. He scores a touchdown. No one is freaking about Alex Collins.
I'm buying low on Alex Collins, and I'm not an Alex Collins fan. I mean, I was on the Chris Harris podcast, who hates him even more than I do, and I talk about I've just never been that impressed with him. But at the same time, he's been effective, and I think that he's a little bit better than I used to think he was. And if you look at that game, like, what do we complain about? What do you have, like 80 total yards in that game? We're really getting that upset about it. And to your point, if he scores the touchdown, we're actually talking about him having a great day. So I don't understand the hate for Alex Collins. I actually tweeted that on Friday morning. I got so annoyed with it. Like, the people in our industry all throughout the game, this is why Alex Collins was a bust this year. You can't ignore the work inside the goal line. Friday morning, we wake up to it and like, oh, Alex Collins this, Alex Collins was the freaking 15th ranked running back to expert consensus and the 15th running back off the board, but everybody thought he was a bust.
Yeah, listen, I was in on Alex Collins. I'm big on Alex Collins this year. I got him in a bunch of spots. I'm not panicky yet. It doesn't look like the workhorse role that I envisioned for him is going to be there, but that doesn't mean that can't also develop too. Like, I think 12 touches is like really the floor of touches he's ever going to see in a game, and he's starting to get a few more snaps in the passing game as well. Maybe that's just a construct of how bad this Baltimore offense is, that he's on the field so they just dump it down, but he's been highly efficient on his touches. If he can get back the goal line work, he's going to be probably running back 15.
Yeah, he probably will be, as long as they continue to work in that way. And we already have, as you talked about before, like Ken Dixon's gone, so it's just him and Buck Allen. So what kind of concern could you possibly have for his workload? It's going to be there.
And the whole thing is, like, people can say, "Oh, Kenneth Dixon sucks," or not Kenneth Dixon. People generally on in fantasy football, like the realm at least, like Kenneth Dixon's really good. That's like a consensus take. Fantasy football people love players who don't play, because you never get to see what their downside is. Like, Kenneth Dixon rules. He's so great. Well, he's not going to play this season. And the other consensus is like, hey, Alex Collins isn't all that good. But before that, it was Buck Allen sucks. Like, which one is it? They all can't suck. Someone's going to get points.
That's why I told you, like, was it you? No, it wasn't. I should have told you this before. It was the theory of why the Bills started with Nathan Peterman, is because they always know the next man up is what everybody wants to see. And they knew that even as bad as Josh Allen is, he's not as bad as Nathan Peterman. So that's why they started with him. And that's exactly what happened. So you get that across all landscapes as the backup quarterback. That's the best job in the NFL, because everybody thinks you're amazing. Everybody thinks you're the best, and you don't ever have to play, hopefully. Backup running back, you're always going to be better than the guy in front of you. Like, I mean, look at this. Chase Edmonds. I love Chase Edmonds, but let's be real. He's not David Johnson. But there's people out there like, oh my God, if Chase Edmonds gets a chance, could you imagine?
Yeah, I mean, it'd be kind of, I don't think it'd be similar to the James Conner situation, because that infrastructure in Pittsburgh is so good, but he could be like 60% what we hope David Johnson can be, or maybe 60% what David Johnson is right now, which is not great. But it's just the volume that you would inherit. But yeah, no, I'm with you on that one. Did you see the Colts running back snap share yesterday?
What did I tell you at the beginning of the season? I know what it was. Go ahead.
So the Indy, Wilkins 39%, Hines 39%, Mack 30%. Sweet.
And we still don't have Robert Turbin back. And everybody's like, oh, whatever. They were using Robert Turbin in the preseason as one of the two leads, as the powerful running back. Is what I said. I do not own, and I don't own, and I won't own anybody in that Colts backfield, because the Colts backfield is the true definition of committee, and it's not going to change.
Hines would be the only one I'd shoot for the moon on in a PPR league, just because I don't
even want to mess with that.
He didn't do it much yesterday, but I do think that he will be the one who's involved in the passing game. But they were up the entire game yesterday, which was surprising, I would say, especially as 6-point underdogs.
Yeah, I still don't want to be involved with it at all, because he's theoretic at best, and he's not even there yet.
Aaron Jones, I have ranked at number 7. Aaron Jones is not someone you want to pick up and play, but he is worth having on your bench, I think.
He is. It's all going to depend on what the Packers do, because the exact scenario that I laid out, which was my concern of being a Jamal Williams owner, is what happened. Jamal Williams came out of the first two games with mediocre numbers, and it's understandable because he faced the Bears and the Vikings. You don't get much tougher than that for a 2-game slate for running backs. That opens up a scenario where what we're talking about right now, Pat, is Aaron Jones. Look, he's got to be better than Jamal Williams. He's the next running back. He's got to perform better, right? Well, people also forget that Aaron Jones can't pass block, but if he's improved in that area somehow in the preseason, he's been working on the side. I don't know that he has. I wish we had some reports from somebody covering the team that whether he has or hasn't. Aaron Jones could be walking into a situation where week 1, they were splitting carries and neither of them looked good in these first 2 games. And it's like, all right, we got a timeshare going forward. He could be walking into a situation right now where they're like, well, look at what happened with Jamal Williams. Let's give Aaron Jones his chance in week 3.
Okay, last one, I guess. Do you think Shady plays?
I think he does, because I think he's just going to play at this point.
Why are they like? What's the point of playing?
Because it's not like he can wait 2 weeks and heal. This is if the report. So we've already had this report. People come back and say it's not really fractured ribs. So who knows at this point? So you can look at it that way. Let's say it's not fractured ribs. Then he probably sits out for a week, because then you can get him 100%. Maybe it's bruised cartilage or something like that. If it is a fractured rib, he's not going to sit out for the season where you're going to get him healthy towards what are you going to do? Okay, we'll sit him for 5 weeks so we can have him for the stretch run so we can continue our trek to 0-16. Like, there's no point in holding him out. Like, there's not a lot of healing to be done where he can't just play through it. A lot of running backs have actually played through it.
In the comment section. We'll get to your questions at the end. We'll dedicate an entire segment to your start sit, or not your start sits, but your pickup questions, ads, drops, trades, all that. This guy Lou in the chat does say, though, backup running backs have a history of doing well and winning, giving. It's a poorly constructed sentence, but backup running backs have a history of doing well, when giving finally, becoming a starter. Think Michael Turner and Steven Jackson. David Johnson backed up Chris Johnson. You're right, but it's just a crapshoot of who those guys are going to be. Someone has to get hurt.
Oh, hold on, time out too. So all those names he mentioned were actually drafted as future replacements too. Like the Cardinals didn't draft Chase Edmonds to usurp David Johnson. That's like there's different scenarios for these guys.
This is true. It's like the year that Larry Johnson came in and won everyone's leagues after Brees Holmes got hurt. He was going in like the 7th round.
Right.
So, yeah. So with the McCoy thing, would you go Ivory or would you go Marcus Murphy? I would go Ivory just for the touchdown upside if they ever score touchdowns. But Marcus Murphy is probably going to be the pass catching back, and they're probably going to be losing a ton.
That's why, I might throw a flyer on Marcus Murphy in PPR because I don't think anybody's going to go for him if LaShawn McCoy is out, because everybody's going to go for Chris Ivory. So I think he could be I'm not going to spend a lot of money because why do I want to be that invested with the Bills offense? You need Chris Ivory to hopefully get a touchdown. Let other people spend on him and they'll go grab Marcus Murphy for like $4 or $5
or less. You could probably get him for a $0 bid.
Possibly.
Yeah. All right, wide receivers, let's move on. Injuries at the wide receiver position. Antonio Brown dealing with a calf injury. He returned to the game in Week 2. He's expected to play in Week 3. He's taken heat in the media in Pittsburgh, though. I don't really know why anyone would ever be mad at Antonio Brown, but here we are. Marquise Goodwin missed Week 2. He's questionable for Week 3. Devontae Parker missed Week 2. He says he's ready to play, although it doesn't seem like the Dolphins want to play him. He's questionable for Week 3. Larry Fitzgerald hurt his hamstring. Came back to the game against the Rams, but was limping around. He's questionable for Week 3. Again, these hamstrings really concern me. Moncrief hurt his knee late in that Patriots game. He exited, didn't come back. He's questionable for Week 3. Mike Wallace was carted off the field with an ankle injury. He's probably done for the season. So the Eagles just keep getting more and more injuries, especially at the receiver position. Great news for Eagles stacks on DraftKings, especially if Wentz does return this week, which he may. Because Ertz and Aguilar are the only 2 guys that are left healthy, at least until Elshon comes back. Travis Benjamin for the Chargers. He's dealing with a foot injury. He missed Week 2. We saw Mike Williams with the touchdown. That's a periphery piece anyway. Probably unownable at this point. We don't even know if he's going to play next week or not. And then Danny Amendola got rattled. He took a big hit to the head, went and got in the concussion protocol, passed it, returned to the game. So he's still on the field for the Dolphins. It's funny, you can get Danny Amendola a case of the dizzies, you put him back in the game. Devontae Parker's out there giving people the finger, can't get into the game. Bad at it. Any of those really concern you? Does the Brown thing worry you?
No, not at all. None of those have me too stressed out for what's happening. I think that the only thing I think is intriguing is Eagles, maybe Josh Gordon today.
Yeah, apparently that's going to happen tonight. It's funny because the Browns are so stupid that they announced that they were going to cut, and I doubt this was a ploy on their part. They were just like, we're going to cut Josh Gordon because he's a menace to our team. And then as soon as they put that out there, other teams are like, well, we'll trade you for Josh Gordon, you morons. They're like, oh, we're pretty savvy just putting that out there to the media. This is the best thing that ever happened to them.
Yeah, I know. You really think they're that smart, though? That's giving them a lot of credit.
No, I mean, they did it. They said they were going to cut him and then realized after the fact, after teams started calling them, that they backdoored their way into trade value on Josh Gordon.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense. I thought you were saying they were so smart that they did it on purpose to try and drum up the trade value.
No, they're so stupid they did it unintentionally, and then it drummed up a trade market.
Okay, yeah, I'm with you on that, yeah.
Where do you think if he goes anywhere, because he still might get cut, who knows? Where do you think he ends up going? The best part was we don't want to trade him to an AFC team. It's what are you doing, the Browns? Just trade him and get value. Either get nothing or get something. What are you doing, the Browns? Yeah, are you worried that Cincinnati is just, that they're your biggest threat for the Super Bowl? Can't give them Josh Gordon.
No, that's the thing. This isn't baseball. Really, you put them on a team even within your division. Who cares? I mean, you're going to face that team twice in a season. So I see maybe, hey, we don't want to give them to the Bengals because or even the Ravens. We don't want to face them. That's our contender. But yeah, the AFC part makes no sense to me. You're just eliminating potential spots for him to go. I think the Eagles do make sense. I mean, the Cowboys make sense. Both of those teams do. So I think if you're looking at the NFC, those are 2 teams that come to mind the quickest because you look at the rest, You're not going to the other two teams in that division. Most of the AFC North has got pretty much full spots over there. So you're looking for where is he going to play and where is he going to play where, a team's going to be aggressive enough that they can use him potentially to make the playoffs. So you want a contender, but also if he ends up busting out, it doesn't kill their team. And I think that's why you're looking at a limited scope of teams.
All right, so in the actual rankings this is PPR scoring once again, because I only do PPR scoring, but the rankings this week, I moved Quincy Enunwa up to number 1. It's the same top 3. Basically, they just reshuffled order a little bit. Enunwa is number 1. Number 2 is John Brown. Number 3 is Brandon Marshall. Then we have Mike Williams, Geronimo Allison, Chris Godwin, Rashard Higgins, Tyler Boyd, Keelan Cole, Dede Westbrook, and then like Ryan Grant, Anthony Callaway. I think in standard, I would take Callaway over Higgins, but in PPR, I would take Higgins.
I'm going Callaway for the most part. So heading into this weekend, I look back at the first weekend. Of course, Rashard Higgins way more I think almost 3 or 4 times as many snaps as we saw for Callaway in week 1. And I actually talked to Zach Jackson from The Athletic. He covers the Browns. I said, "What do you think happens? What are you looking for here?" He said, initially, he thinks it's going to be Callaway used on jet sweeps and go routes and that, use his athleticism. And he got that huge touchdown. You take that away and nobody's even really saying, well, I guess Callaway was a bust to pick up and stash. At the same time, you see they want to get him involved. And the snap count was up yesterday. It was close to Higgins yesterday. I'm going more long-term here. It's like you always say, when you pick people up off waivers, you usually want to shoot highest. And I'm shooting highest here, even coming from somebody last year who was a Higgins fan, and I like Higgins coming out of college. I'm shooting for the upside of Callaway because the same thing I said during the draft, if not for his off-field issues, and he didn't play at all last year, people need to remember that. Coming from Florida, he would have been a top 3 wide receiver in this draft, potentially number 1 off the board on his talent alone. So if you're talking about pure upside, I am stashing Callaway first.
Are any of these guys worth a number 1 waiver priority? Because I think Quincy Enunwa might be. In PPR,
I was gonna say PPR. That's the only one I would go for, and because week 1 he actually led the league in market share. So I think that if you're looking at it, he's going to be involved, even whether Curse is out there or not.
Brown or Marshall? I don't know what Marshall's value is going to be like once Baldwin returns, and we don't even know what it is because we haven't watched the Monday night game. So the waiver wire column does get up. If you're looking for updates on everything, just check the column. It'll be updated after the game tonight. It'll be updated on Tuesday evening as well in case there's more injury news. I'll have all those updates. But for right now, we can only deal with what we know. And I think just projecting out long-term for the season, I think it's close between Brown and Marshall anyway as like the next few weeks go by. And then once Baldwin comes back, I'd much rather own John Brown.
Well, we'll also see tonight, but you should know, John Brown's owned in every single league of hopefully people that have been listening to me because I wanted people to draft him, told people to pick him up before the season started, told people to pick him up last week. You need to own John Brown. John Brown is healthy and back, and John Brown she's the number 1 wide receiver for the Ravens.
Crabtree's still involved here. I think it's like a
He's
1A. It's a 1A. It's a 1A,
1.
1B type situation here. I think in any given week, one of them could be the one, but one of them is not going to get completely left behind, which is kind of nice.
Well, that's fine, but number 1A is John Brown.
Yeah, listen, I love John Brown. John Brown's. We talked about him for like 3 straight months, and he's still available in 75% of leagues. So he needs to be on this list. Go pick up John Brown.
As you said, people don't pay attention to us.
I mean, this is true. This is why people need to smash that like button. Do us all a big favor out here. Hit the like button. Rig the algo so people tune into this stuff. Go retweet it too. Spread the word. And listen, here's the thing. You start spreading the word of the show. This is a deal I'll make with you viewers out there. You spread the show, and I'll continue to give bad advice. And then you can stop watching. Just tell 3 friends that are in your league to watch. They'll listen. You'll beat them. Boom. We're all winners. That's how we'll rig the algorithm, then we'll rig your league just like that. Isn't that the most sensible move, Jake?
That is. I think that's from somebody who told me that you did that with iTunes.
I did, and it worked, by the way. At least momentarily. I don't know if that's
subscribe, unsubscribe?
Yeah.
I don't know if it still works. Somebody told me they did it like 100 times in one day. I was like, I don't know if it works like that.
No, it doesn't. Like, you need 100 people to do it once.
Oh, okay.
Because then it looks like you have 100 new listeners instead of just one person.
Now I know.
And yeah, if they can, you don't want to do it 100 times back to back to back to back to back. If one person did it like once every 3 days, it would be far more beneficial than doing it all at one time.
Okay, now I know. Now I'll break it down for all my listeners that are trying to be like you.
Yeah, listen, if anyone ever wants to know how I ended up with my own show, it's stuff like that, how I ended up with my own show. It honestly is.
Rig the game.
Yeah. Any final thoughts on wide receiver? I feel like it's those two big guys, Quincy and John Brown. Brandon Marshall for the short term. Mike Williams just looks good, but it's in that Chargers offense, guys are going to get lost every single week because there are so many options.
I don't think so. I've been on Mike Williams. You know that. I think that Mike Williams at the beginning of the season was the number 2 wide receiver behind Keenan Allen, and I said there's a chance that he could lead this league or lead the team in touchdowns this season because he's that good. The guy was a top 10 draft pick. People forget like just that quickly how good Mike Williams could potentially be, and I think that he could be the number 2. I like him, and I think if you're looking at another situation, obviously, because you have them back-to-back at 9 and 10, it's the Keelan Cole, D.D. Westbrook situation where, you know, it could be this week. It could be Moncrief the week after that. It could be DJ Chark. It could be – they're all in the mix there. I think long-term, the one that will give you the most production, the most usable weeks will be Keelan Cole.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with you. I just really like the skill set of D.D. Westbrook. I think he's a highly talented wide receiver. And maybe it's just you get duped into certain, even the catch that, it was the Keelan Cole, one-hander yesterday, but just what D.D. Westbrook did up along the sidelines yesterday, just those underneath routes that he runs and his ability to turn that upfield and make big plays. I do like his skill set a lot. I think that he could emerge, but right now you're right. Keelan Cole does look like the one you would want to own.
Yeah, exactly.
But, I own DD in a whole bunch of places. I'm not playing him right now. Let's see where this goes. I probably should be playing him. Tight ends. If we're going to talk about injuries at tight end, there wasn't really much of brewing. Jermaine Gresham missed week 2, probably going to play in week 3. Delaney and Olsen continue to be out, but there's no real pickups. Like Ebron, I have ranked at number 1. Disley, I still have ranked at number 2. We'll see what his usage is like. Maybe he has another good game. He was probably picked up already, but if he has another good game against Chicago Monday night, he probably moves up to number 1. ASJ, Austin Hooper, Ben Watson, Jake Butt, Ian Thomas, Ricky Seals-Jones, Jonnu Smith, Ryan Griffin. I suppose I should add O.J. Howard onto this list. I just kind of totally spaced on him, and now I'm looking at the list. But where does O.J. Howard fit in here? Is he number 2, number 1?
Number 1. It's not even a question in my opinion. We're number 1 because I guess you and I, since you're asking that question, maybe you weren't the one I was talking about it with, but I was saying O.J. Howard before the season starts is, we know the Fitzpatrick. We know the Fitzpatrick usage for O.J. Howard was higher than what we saw with Jameis Winston last year. And that was what we were hoping for. But I also said the fact that we know that's the start. So here's the real hope. Here's the real hope for the team catches on and starts using O.J. Howard all the time. And I know he's the better blocker. Last year, you remember this, I said when they came out of the draft, that was the reason I was concerned for O.J. Howard's value last year, because he was the better blocker. And what do you do with the better blocker? You ask him to block more. Well, now, because he's continued to improve, this is his second season, he's the best all-around tight end on this team. He is getting close, if not already on the same level of Cameron Brate in the passing game. You have yourself a legitimate top 5 to 10 tight end weapon in the league. This team is going to wake up. And if for everybody out there, they sign Cameron Brate. That Cameron Brate contract is technically a 1-year deal. There is zero dead money after this season. So, I don't know why they gave him as much as they did, but there's no ties to Cameron Brate that I think that they wake up and O.J. Howard ends up usurping and all roles of Cameron Brate and becomes a top 10 tight end.
Even when we look at snap share from yesterday, O.J. Howard played 79% of the offensive snaps for the Bucs. Cameron Brate only played 24%. And someone named Anthony Auclair, maybe he is Francais, he played 29%. So it sounds like they found someone else to block instead of O.J. Howard.
Yeah, which is a great thing. And even if he is blocking, you know who's a great blocker?
Rob Gronkowski. This is true. Yep. People always overlook that when it comes to assessing tight end value. That's a big, Gronk is such a good receiver, but he's such a good blocker.
Yeah, because he's such a freaking beast.
This is true. All right, streaming QBs for the week. It was a tough one. It was unlike last week when it came down to this. I have Jared Goff at number 1 against the Chargers at home. I think it's a nice spot. That could be a very high-scoring game, so you might as well get a piece of it, especially if the Gurley cramping thing doesn't keep him out but limits him in some sort of way. The Fitzmagic against Pittsburgh on Monday night. When's the Fitzmagic flame out coming, Jake?
I think it might be this week.
Pittsburgh's D has looked bad.
It has, but this is why, we made the excuses for Adrian Peterson saying, that workload, the fall off that following week, it won't happen this year because he's facing the Colts. And look what happened. The fall off is real. This feels like one of those games where it's like, all right, everybody's buying into Fitzpatrick. He comes out and looks like Conor McGregor for his conference. Everything looks great. And then he has a setup and fails. It's that NFL feeling. There's no reason behind it because you're right. Pittsburgh defense doesn't look good, but this just feels like the scenario where finally everybody buys in, and that's when it happens. And once everybody's on board is when the ship sinks.
Goff, Fitzpatrick, Tannehill at home versus Oakland, Tyrod at home against the Jets Thursday night, Blake Bortles at home against Tennessee. Those would be my top 5. Would you throw anyone else into there? Like, would you take, who the hell did I say Cincinnati was playing? Cincinnati's playing at Carolina. I don't love that.
No, I don't love that either. Actually, you know what? I'd probably go Tyrod over Tannehill, but I mean, I hope that you don't really need to even dig past the 1 or 2 this early in the season.
Yeah, I hope so too. But I mean, I wanted to list 5, so I listed 5 defenses.
Or wait, you could get the question I got on Twitter yesterday, Pat. Should I drop Luck and just start streaming quarterbacks?
Andrew Luck has been pretty good, hasn't he?
He threw 2 touchdowns. I mean, he didn't get 200 yards yesterday, but he threw 2 touchdowns. They didn't really need him to because the Colts defense showed up and dominated the Redskins yesterday. But like, if you have Andrew Luck, you don't go streaming. You don't drop him to stream quarterbacks.
Yeah, if that was the whole point, you shouldn't have drafted Andrew Luck in the first place if you were just going to stream. What was the point of drafting him?
Exactly. And you probably drafted in like the 9th or 8th round.
Oh, you know what's funny? Someone, I mocked this yesterday, and this always comes back to haunt me whenever I start taking very arrogant tones and mocking things. But we did the worst
We
Twitter.
don't ever do that.
Yeah, no, never. We did the worst Twitter question in the world, and it was, do I drop Deshaun Watson for Ryan Fitzpatrick? I was like, that's ludicrous. And then Fitzpatrick goes out and does it again.
That's great. Was it that guy who came at you? He's like, you're going to rue the day you put Deshaun Watson at number 1.
He wasn't. No, there was a guy who was yelling at me for having Mahomes at number 2 last week, like yesterday.
That's pretty good.
You know what?
Why, did you rank them too low?
No, he was just like, that's way too high for Patrick Mahomes. Didn't hear from that guy again. You never hear from the hot take people after the fact. Unless they're super right about it. But hey, that's half the fun of all this. Did you see the final play of the Texans game?
No.
It's actually on I took a video of it because it's so ludicrous. So there's 17 seconds left in the game. The Texans need 15 yards to get into field goal range to tie the game against the Texans. They have no timeouts left. 17 seconds left on the clock. Watson's in shotgun. He runs around for 15 seconds, fakes like he's going to throw to the end zone at one point, runs past the line of scrimmage, then runs back across the line of scrimmage, and then throws it to DeAndre Hopkins 30 yards to the middle of the field and the game ends. It was the single worst play I think I've ever seen a quarterback make.
I'm gonna have to go look that up right after the show.
Like it was horrible. Like the best quarterback play in that game was from like the punter, like the very beginning of the I watched a weird amount of that game, and then like Blake Gabbert completing a pass to himself because that's what Texans or Titans quarterbacks do. They complete passes to themselves.
You can you do audio with that? Can you like recap that and put it to like Benny Hill music?
Probably. I could probably cut that down, although the video quality is not that great. I'll try to see if I can.
I don't know. Which is better? Is that play better, or is the face that Eli made after he got hit better?
I felt bad for Eli last night.
Dude, like, all right, the one where he was the 4th down one where they're picking him up and he's got that face like, what the hell just happened to me? That's like, I saved that as a GIF. I'm using that. I'm letting people know already. That's going to be in my columns. But when he ran for that 1st down and didn't slide, oh my God. Was he trying to get himself knocked out of the game? Like, I feel like he's tired of the team already.
Probably. He should have pulled Avonte Davis and retired at halftime. That would have been the move.
I know. How about that?
I mean, they can probably just go like, who's their backup?
Avonte Davis or for the Giants?
For the Giants, because it's not Davis Webb. They cut him.
No, it's Kyle Lauletta, or that they just drafted from. I had an extra syllable in there. Kyle Lauletta from Richmond, or it's Alex Tanney.
That sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
So yeah, Eli's playing great. QB injuries.
Lauletta. Why do I keep adding a syllable? Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
Marcus Mariota is probably going to play next week. We're guessing he almost played this week.
I think so, but
We'll see.
mean, is that a good thing?
Gabbert was awful.
Oh, well, but that's because Gabbert is awful.
Oh yeah, so the Mariota has to be an upgrade.
But here was I gonna say, like, you still saw a lot. The only person that had a decent day was Corey Davis. So, like, if you're a Corey Davis owner, like, do you want Marcus Mariota?
I don't think it matters who's playing quarterback. Corey Davis is like their only legit receiving option besides like a few like hitches to Tywan Taylor that he might break and score a touchdown on. That's it. Like if they're throwing more than 4 yards downfield, then it's going to go to Corey Davis.
Yeah, it wasn't going to Jonnu Smith.
No, it was not. They played 4 sets. Luke Stalker had the most targets of any tight end on the Titans yesterday. They had 4 different tight ends with targets, so super on that. Do you think Wentz ends up playing this week?
Wow. I think it's going to be one more week. That's just my guess because of how it sounded last week. It just sounds like it's going to be one more.
Offensive line injuries. The Broncos lost a right tackle. The Jags lost Cam Robinson, a left tackle. The Eagles lost Jason Peters with a quad injury. No word on whether he's going to be back. More injuries to this Eagles offense. The Vikings lost Rashad Hill with an ankle injury, their right tackle. Their center, Pat Eflin, is still out. No word on when he's going to be back. The Giants lost their center. The Colts, Anthony Costanzo, is still out for the moment. Let's see. Brendan Schriff hurt his knee. He returned to the game. He's expected to play. There's a lot of injuries. There's a lot of injuries this week.
Yeah, the Giants still have Eric Flowers healthy. That's basically a lost thing. So you can look at that.
That's something you're praying someone gets injured.
Yeah, here's the situation. I know this is nothing what we're talking about, but this is why I don't think that expansion NFL league that bringing the XFL is back is going to work because we can't even get capable offensive linemen for all 32 teams in the NFL. What's going to be playing on the field for the XFL?
The CFL has these guys. The quality of all players, I think that's where it gets really pronounced. At a very elite level, when you look at the NFL versus whether it was NFL Europe, the CFL, Arena League, whatever, the defensive linemen and linebackers are so good and they get injured far less often than offensive linemen that when you don't have your elite offensive linemen trying to block these guys and you have your second tier and third tier offensive linemen, it really becomes pronounced. But when you have fifth tier defensive linemen going up against fifth tier offensive linemen, there's more of a balance in that situation.
Yeah, all right, fine. No, that makes a little bit of sense.
Defenses, streaming Ds for the week. I'm looking at Cleveland versus the Jets on Thursday night. What do you think?
I think that's an interesting one. I don't know if I'm going to go that far.
I think Cleveland's defense just might be really good.
I think it's solid, but I mean the Jets at the same time. It's not like the Jets are. They're not the Bills.
No, the Jets aren't the Bills, but short week Thursday night. I love home defenses on Thursday night. I think the Browns. They didn't shut down New Orleans, but they limited New Orleans pretty well that entire game. They limited the Steelers pretty well and generated a bunch of turnovers. Darnold hasn't looked bad, but he's still going to be a turnover machine.
I know, but I'm also looking at the fact of look at what happened to just the Ravens defense. And the Ravens defense is supposed to be supposedly a top 10 defense, and they fell apart. The Thursday night can go any different direction. That's my only concern. Is what if the defense just doesn't get on track by the time Thursday rolls around? So I'm with you. Normally it's a running game.
Look, but even on last Thursday night, Bengals D was a good play, the home D.
Oh, that's because Joe Flacco.
But, is Sam Darnold really less turnover prone than Joe Flacco is at this point of his career?
No, he's not. But also, I'm just saying, I'm just playing devil's advocate. I'm not telling you it's a terrible pick. I'm just giving you reasons why you might be a little cautious. I just think there's some people out there that might drop a quality defense to play the streaming game.
I guess it depends on what that matchup is. I like streaming defenses. That's I'm dropping the Ravens defense this week, and I'm playing Cleveland's defense this week.
See, who's Baltimore play this week?
Baltimore plays. It wasn't someone. They play. Actually, no. Maybe I won't do that. I had the bid in. I should have looked. They're playing Denver, which is a pretty good situation.
Yeah. Okay.
Baltimore might be one of these teams this year that goes 8-0 at home and 0-8 on the road.
That's very possible. But that, both those defenses, Baltimore and Denver, those are defenses I'm not dropping for. Carolina, I'm not dropping to go pick up Cleveland. But your point is correct. I like Cleveland. I just don't drop a decent defense for them.
Okay, this is a point that I want to make on defenses. Do you know how many points the Rams scored yesterday? Defense.
Probably not a lot.
13. That was it.
Okay.
So when it gets into some of these situations, you do want a scenario where they just got shutouts. A real life good defense doesn't necessarily make a good fantasy defense. Is the only point I really want to make.
Right.
On that.
We always say that. Yeah.
But people continue to get that confused. The Rams weren't the best defense of the day. Not even close.
No, and if you look at past years, the Eagles' defense was the best fantasy and terrible on the field past years because they gave up a whole bunch, but they were so aggressive in the secondary by giving up a whole bunch that when they got the interceptions, they're running them back for touchdowns. So you're right. It doesn't always work that way.
So Cleveland at home against the Jets Thursday night is my number one streaming defense. After that, I have Chicago at Arizona. Then we have Miami at home against Oakland, the Jets at Cleveland, and then Dallas at Seattle. I really only like the first two, to be perfectly honest with you.
You might like Dallas a little bit more depending on what happens tonight. That front seven is looking pretty good now that everybody's done being suspended.
I suppose that's true. Maybe I'll see how, because this might be a good litmus test too because Dallas's attacking unit to get to the quarterback is not going to be as good as Denver's. And Denver's really dominated Russell Wilson with that offensive line up front in terms of generating sacks. So I think that Dallas is more in line with Chicago. They may not even be as good as Chicago in getting to the passer. They might be a little bit better. They might be a little bit worse, but I think that they're in the same neighborhood. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out on Monday night, to see how well Chicago does against Seattle and actually penetrating into the backfield.
Right. And well, I think the thing is too, is if you're watching last night's game, they were actually talking about during it, and he brought up the fact and said that if you watch, and he played a couple clips saying that the Giants offensive line wasn't getting beat athletically, they were getting beat schematically. And the fact that if you're looking at it is the stunts, everything, like getting to the quarterback was all on the skill of the design and the play. So if you're looking at that, to your point, you don't have to necessarily be like, oh, look, the offensive lineman can't handle them. They're just that much better at getting to the quarterback, which could be a very good opportunity next week.
And there's also a thing where basically Eli Manning just turtled every time someone was in his face. Russell Wilson will try to get away from that and will succeed far more often than Eli Manning.
He went for that one run, don't forget.
Fantastic. Poor Eli, man. You got to get him out of your life.
I think everybody wants to at this point. I know everybody was complaining about the offensive line and Eli. Those were the two things from last night. Eli Manning was like, that was the Joe Flacco game. What was his average yards per attempt? Like 4?
Flacco or Eli?
Eli last night.
Eli last night, average yards per attempt. And I got to go find
Do
this.
you have it?
I don't have it like completely in front of me. Let's see.
Quick math.
Just average per attempt, 6.3.
That's Joe Flacco.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of that, I mean, that's not even considering like air yards. A lot of those were just passes behind the line of scrimmage to Saquon Barkley.
I don't like. What is Shermer's playbook? It's like the entire front sheet is just flat routes. Like that's all they do.
Yeah, I was surprised. Like they really tried to get Beckham going, and Dallas was like, you know what, Barkley, you have yours. We're gonna make sure that Odell does not catch a single slant in this game. That's not happening.
And don't you think that's a smart thing to do against the Giants? If you're gonna force what happened last night.
Yeah, it was. It was like that. I mean, the Giants' game plan wasn't terrible because they were like, you know what? And they came out early like, we're going to make sure that Zeke does nothing against us. And the first drive was just like, hey, we'll just go deep and we'll score. That basically screwed the Giants for the entire game because then they had to respect the pass. Then Zeke got going.
Yeah, that's what really killed them. Is usually you load up on when you have the pieces like that, like a running back like that. That's the smart thing to do. Unfortunately, the Giants started off fine, and then, as you said, through everything went out the window. They said, you know what, we're gonna try and play catch up now, and it was one score. They were down 10-0 at the middle of the half. So why are you worried about passing that much when you have Saquon Barkley? If they would have stuck with the run like the Cowboys did, they might have actually had some flow to that game.
All right, let's get to your questions. If you're in the chat right now, please, again, smash the like button, share it around, and we're going to take your questions here for as long as we can. Till Jake, do you have a heart out at this time, or do we have time to take some questions?
Yeah, we got 22 minutes, 21 minutes.
21 minutes for questions? There are probably not even going to be that many questions, so we'll see. Would you keep Keelan Cole or Corey Davis? I would keep Corey Davis.
Oh, Corey Davis, not even a question.
Okay. Should I trade Christian McCaffrey, Cooper Kupp, and David Njoku for Antonio Brown and Danny Amendola? Probably not.
No, that doesn't. It sounds like you're giving up a little too much there just to get Brown.
Yeah, I mean, if the trade was like McCaffrey for Brown, and if you don't need Cooper, like I think Cooper Kupp's valuable, and that's kind of the reason I wouldn't do it because Danny Amendola is not valuable, really.
No, that's where the catch comes in. Like I don't mind doing the 2-for-1 for Brown, but that third, like you don't need a third piece where you're losing that much.
Royce Freeman washed up yet? It's 2 games deep now.
It's 2 games deep, and he has 2 games of decent fantasy production. What's washed up?
I don't know. I don't know what washed up is. I mean, you can't play him this week, can you?
Who they face this week?
At the Ravens?
I think you still could in a non-PPR.
I don't know, man. Did
the Ravens? What were the Ravens doing with Joe Mixon? Getting destroyed by him?
Fair enough, but at least Joe Mixon touched the ball 22 times.
Well, that's why I said non-PPR. In PPR, I don't want to start.
Even in non-PPR, what's Freeman gonna get? 8 touches?
No, he's gonna get probably like 70 yards or so. That's in non-PPR. That's a good day. You got to remember non-PPR.
All right, I still
not this BS from last night, like Saquon Barkley putting up a freaking Julian Edelman game.
NC Fire Ass, I need some DraftKings help. New to all of this.
Wait. NC Fire Ass?
No, NC Fire asks.
Oh.
Or Old Fire Ass asks, I need some DraftKings help, new to all this. My friend, hit the description. There is a link in the description. DraftKings NFL strategy and tips. I did it with Drew Dinkmeyer and Mike Leone from dailyroto.com, walking you through the process of research, submitting lineups, picking tournaments, and even using different tools to help you get an advantage on the field at dailyroto.com. If you use the promo code THEPME, you get 10% off their NFL package. That video is free to watch, and you can see everything and talk through strategy. That would be my highest recommendation for you to go do right now after we finish this one. Let's see. Should I sell high on Jarvis Landry? I don't know how high it's going to be after he should have smashed it yesterday and didn't.
Yeah, I don't think you really can. Even if you did, why would you want to? The biggest concern we have for Jarvis Landry was that Josh Gordon was going to take away 20 to 30 of his targets over the season. He's gone. So who cares?
Okay, here's one. Would you drop Ryan Grant for John Brown? Absolutely, I would.
Yeah, 100%. But I want both of them. But John Brown, 100%. John Brown is going to finish the year as a top 35 wide receiver at this rate.
Corey asks, trade Leonard Fournette for David Johnson. That is an interesting one. I think yes.
I think yes, because you're basically trading 2 for 1. Like if you have Leonard Fournette, you want to find a way to own TJ Yeldon, so you're taking 2 spots versus 1.
Should I trade away Russell Wilson? I have Mahomes already. I mean, it depends on what you
for
get.
What?
Yeah, for what?
Yeah,
you got to tell us for what? Like just for nothing?
And you can't, if he has a bad game tonight, you can't sell him now anyway because you're going to be selling low. It's the worst time to do so. But if he comes out and balls out.
Also, if I had those two, I might look into the Mahomes market. Not that I think Mahomes is going to be bad, but I still think that Russell Wilson's going to be consistently good all year long. He's probably a top 3 fantasy quarterback. Mahomes might be number 1 for all we know, but what you're going to get in return for Mahomes today versus what you're going to get for Russell Wilson today is substantial. Like, you could get a haul for Patrick Mahomes right now.
Dave Richard from CBS tweeted that out yesterday. Said, what the hell are people doing? Because that was what I was about to say. You were on the same page here. About to make the same point here is he had somebody who just posted. He's like, I just made this trade. Patrick Mahomes, the end for Tom Brady, Derrick Henry, and Cooper Kupp.
See, I don't like that trade.
Really?
Yeah, it's not that I don't think that there's value attached to it. There most definitely is, but I like to target a single player. Like I first of all, I don't want Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry, I don't think is any good.
You know what? You know what? Tom
Brady's fine too, but like,
let me find it. Hold on.
Like I would be trying to target. I mean, it's tough to do with them coming off big games, but like Mahomes for Jarvis Landry in a PPR.
I'd take Mahomes.
You would take Mahomes? Okay, so if that's the case, Mahomes for Jarvis Landry and Cooper Kupp. Or an actual...
Oh, no, it was... okay, you'll feel better. It was Brady and Julio.
Oh, okay, yeah, 100% yes.
I was looking at another one. That wasn't him who tweeted. That's the one that he tweeted.
But like these high-end guys, like Julio's coming off a bad week. Trade Patrick Mahomes for him, like that type of thing. Like almost, right. It's very much like the James Conner situation. When you have one of these sell-high guys that you know is going to continuously be good, leverage the fact that everyone wants them into a really, really good player on the other side. A running back or a Rob Gronkowski at tight end, or even Zach Ertz at tight end. Probably Zach Ertz plus you could probably get Zach Ertz plus like Jarvis Landry for Patrick Mahomes right now. And the thing is, quarterbacks are entirely valuable if they throw 6 touchdowns a game. But generally speaking, like yesterday was the most quarterbacks over 30 points. I think there was like 13 quarterbacks who had over 30 fantasy points. Like, if you find the right guys to stream or even a capable backup, someone like Russell Wilson, then the drop-off isn't all that pronounced when you look at it on a week-to-week basis. Yes, he'll have these spike weeks, but he ain't throwing 6 touchdowns every single week.
Or even 4.
Yeah, like that just doesn't happen.
No, and to your point, go out to tell your league. Say, hey, fielding offers for Patrick Mahomes. Like, I don't understand. Everybody's always afraid to say that because it's like, oh, it's going to kill my value. No, actually, sometimes you get offers that you didn't know you might have coming your way because people are going to overreact and go crazy for it.
Yeah, like the amount of times that trades happen in leagues that I'm in that I didn't even know that player was available. Like, I would have
exactly.
And like, I'll look at the trades like, I would have offered more than that.
Exactly. See, people think it's the opposite. People think it's like real life where like, all right, you know, this person's on the trading block, so everybody's going to try and undercut you.
Should I trade away James Conner and Nelson Aguilar for Dalvin Cook and Jarvis Landry?
Yes.
That's really close, but yeah, I think so.
I'd do it.
Okay. Do you think Fournette plays week 3? I do think he plays week 3.
I think he plays week 3. He was good. Like they had him running on the sidelines on Friday, so I think they have him out there.
Green Bay defense any good?
No. It's okay.
Yeah, it's fine. Who do they play this week?
It's not like what I'm targeting. I mean, it's okay.
I feel like if they were playing, so they're playing at Washington. Yeah, I don't love that. It's probably another
No,
it's probably another 27 catches for Chris Thompson though.
that's true.
All right.
Who's not 100% apparently, but he's doing fine.
Peyton Barber, time to drop. I don't think
No.
it's. I guess it depends on your team structure. I don't think it's time to drop him, but you can't play him at this point.
Right.
Is the problem. He's still playing like 70. He played 68% of the snaps yesterday. He played, and they're meaningless snaps basically because all they do is throw in Tampa Bay now. But eventually, you can't drop a running back that plays that much because that's all you're really looking for and trying to mine volume from. Like we're talking about picking up guys that are playing like, oh, this guy plays 38% of the snaps and like gets 10 touches a game. Like Barber's on the field a lot. If they do change over to run the ball, he's the one who's going to be getting it. So I wouldn't drop him. It's just he's not a must start at this point.
Exactly. I said basically the exact same thing on Twitter yesterday. Somebody asked if they should drop Peyton Barber. It's like, you can't. I know you'd love to. Like, what are you going to do? Are you ever going to start him? But you can't just let a running back who gets that kind of workload sit out there for free for somebody else because, maybe it's not pretty, but next week he gets 20 carries for 63 yards and a touchdown. And it's just, he's the lead option.
Yeah, when we talk about like even Jay Ajayi and Royce Freeman, like I feel like these guys are touchdown or bust players. And Peyton Barber's the same.
He definitely is. And honestly, because they are so pass heavy right now, I mean, the only thing you can hope is stash Ronald Jones somewhere, but he doesn't get involved in the passing game. So that backfield is just messy right now.
Yeah, I mean, I would think that like Jaquiz Rogers, they just don't pass to running backs is the whole thing.
At least not Fitzpatrick. Maybe Winston when he comes back, but Winston might not be coming back to a job.
That would be amazing. I mean, I talked about this in the team preview shows that there'd be some sort of weird circumstance where Fitzmagic does the classic Fitzmagic thing where he plays really awesome and then they'll sign him to a contract and he'll be the worst quarterback in the league.
Yeah, probably, but I really still don't believe Winston's not going to have his job when he comes back because Winston's in the last year of his contract. They have to find out if Winston's their future or not.
How real is Eckler? His production based off two perfect game scripts for him so far. I think he's real, but I don't think that he's like around 100 yards a game real. I think that he's like 10 PPR fantasy points a game real with the potential for more in a better game script or if something happens. But he's going to play in this offense. They might both play on the field at the same time. He's very much worth owning, especially in PPR.
Yeah, speaking of before with Danny Woodhead, this is their new Danny Woodhead. This team, the Chargers love that role, and even with different coaching staffs, that team just loves to have that role. And Phillip Rivers, as we've seen, does not mind throwing to the running back a lot, whoever it is. So there's going to be mixed opportunities there. But even the compliment which I was trying to give for Lindsey with Woodhead, you have to understand. Go look at Woodhead's game script like every single week. It changed. It wasn't consistent. It was more like, hey, you got 10 or 11 good games out of 16. You know what? That's great. That's RB2 value in PPR leagues.
Dustin asks, what are your thoughts on Barber and Burkhead? We just answered Barber. Burkhead.
Why do I do this to myself?
Why do I do it to myself, Jake?
I don't know. I can't. That's what everybody needs to ask. We keep doing it every single year, and I keep being the one that's told I'm the idiot for saying that I want nothing to do with this backfield.
Such a sucker. Went into the season being like, you know what? I'll just take James White. He's going super late. Then I talked myself into Rex Burkhead. Now, do you think that yesterday's performance, where he started the game, then didn't play in the second and third quarter, but still ended up with the second mode? He played 25% of the. Was it 25% of the snaps? Whatever it was. He played more than Sony Michel did, but touched the ball far fewer times. But do you think it was because he was suffering from that concussion?
No, I don't think it's anything. It's trying to predict the Patriots' backfield. It's impossible. The only thing we ever had was the LeGarrette Blount 18 touchdown season because they only went to him inside the 10-yard line. They don't even have that right now. Sony Michel is Dion Lewis. Dion Lewis is fine at the end of the year. You might get RB2 value. But week to week is going to be the headache that we're seeing. Rex Burkhead is fine, but week to week is going to be like this is what you're dealing with. James White in a PPR is the only one I ever want to screw around with, and that's only as a flex running back, even in PPR.
Would you drop Rex Burkhead? Because I would not.
No, I would not. Because that's the thing. I will say this. If we get another injury and it's down to two guys, then yes, get involved in the Patriots backfield because then we don't have to worry about if we could get it down to two guys, that would be great, but that's the problem.
What do I do with David Njoku, Ryan asks. I would keep him. He's one of like 3 tight ends the first 2 weeks to see 7 or more targets in each game. Like it hasn't translated to anything yet, but just go look at the tight ends that like ended up inside the top 10 in fantasy scoring yesterday. It was just ludicrous. Like No, there's consistency in the volume. The production hasn't quite matched that yet. But what are you really looking for from tight end? Like, I guess the question would be, if you had Njoku, would you drop him for OJ Howard? Because I don't know if I would. I think I'd keep Njoku.
I would, though. I would, because I'm a huge OJ Howard fan, but I would find a way, hopefully maybe not to, and keep both of them or look at the names we talked about before for the waiver wire for the tight ends. I think that's what we're dealing with right now. I had people last week asking me like, oh, I got Trey Burton, George Kittle sitting out there. Should I pick him up and drop Burton? I'm like, is nobody looking at your league? The Olsen and Delaney Walker owners have to be in a situation where they're looking at Will Disley and maybe OJ Howard's not even out there, but you just let them turn to OJ Howard. Go after those teams for a trade if those are your options. So I think OJ Howard and Joker are out there. But as an aside, Pat, this is why I prefer in leagues to boost I don't like the PPR boost for tight ends, but the yardage boost for tight ends. I like actually doubling that up, or not doubling, another 50%, because one touchdown and you're a tight end one. It's so annoying.
It is. I feel like we're about to jump the shark on a lot of this fantasy football scoring. I talked about this last week, that eventually people are going to be so dismayed. It's the reason why best ball was taken off, so people don't have to be held accountable for anything they do and make picks. Like, they can draft 1,000 leagues. Well, I own him in 30 of the 1,000 leagues. Look how right I was. That's the only reason those leagues exist. And yeah, they're fun. That's great. I enjoy playing in them. That's not to say that, but that's why they're there. We're going to start giving out fractional points for stupid pass interference yards gained. Because people are all triggered that their guys don't do well, and everyone needs to do well. It's just
no.
Sometimes, you know what? Tight end sucks. Sometimes you have a shitty tight end. That's how it works.
And that's 100% true. But my entire point was, everybody complains about scoring and stuff like that. In my home league, which we've done for now 10 years, it's not just 1 point for 10 yards. It's 1.5, because yards are the production that we see out there. We all sit there and hate the Jerome Bettis game from 6. What was it? The 3 touchdowns from 3 yards out a bunch of years ago. Boost the yardage. Don't give out PPRs and first down like you're talking about. Don't keep giving out these weird points for all these other. Just boost the yards, because that's the production we see.
All right, so let's go rapid fire here, because we only have a limited amount of time. We got a whole bunch of questions. Trade Adam Thielen and Jamal Williams for Jordan Howard and Brandon Cooks? Yes.
Yes.
I have Goff, Cooks, and Robert Woods. Do I need to move someone? And that was written in all caps.
I mean, ideally, yes, but don't undersell yourself just to do it.
You could. I like Goff this week. I don't think Goff is a top 10 quarterback, though.
Neither do I, but I also don't want, even if I don't have Goff, I don't want Woods and Cooks.
Would you rather have Woods or Cooks?
Cooks.
I'd rather have Cooks, too. Should I drop Alex Collins? No.
No.
Half point, flex half point. We're not taking start-sit questions on a Monday morning. We're talking
oh, my God.
We're talking about trades and pickups. I don't even know I haven't committed to memory who everyone's playing yet. Jonathan asks, are you encouraged by James Washington's involvement yesterday? I don't think it's going to really amount to anything on a consistent basis.
No, I'm a huge James Washington fan, but he was a best ball pick for this year. This is more for the future.
Alex Smith or Matt Stafford or Carson Wentz?
For what?
That's all it says. I'll say Carson Wentz.
Carson Wentz. Sure. That's what I'm saying.
Trade Fournette for David Johnson, half-point PPR. I think we're both on board with yes for that.
Yeah, we said that earlier, because you don't have to deal with trying to own TJ Yeldon, too.
And listen, Fournette's already dealing with a hamstring problem. You think this stuff goes away?
Right. Not really. Well, and the other thing is, too, let's go back to last week. Let's say Leonard Fournette plays. You would have been left with the situation if you own both of well, do I trust Leonard Fournette at 70%, or do I plug in TJ Yeldon because I know he's healthy?
Kenyon Drake, is he a running back 1 the rest of the season? I think he's close. He's probably 14. 14.
I'm going to keep him right there, that mid-teens, high-end RB2.
Yeah, better than Alex Collins, worse than Leonard Fournette.
And Jordan Howard.
Yeah. I was wrong on Jordan Howard. Sony Michel available on my waivers. Worth putting a bid on? Yeah, I think so.
Sure.
He's going to be tough. It depends on who you drop for him. There's a lot that goes into this. But yes, objectively, he is worth owning.
Yeah, of course. And especially like we said before, if Burkhead gets hurt, terrific for him. Not terrific for he got hurt.
Time to drop Jimmy G with Mahomes now on the roster? I would say yes.
You can if you need help elsewhere. Somebody's still buying the hype, though. I would float him out there for trades before I drop him.
Would you keep Jordan Wilkins? Remember, people, with these questions do I keep someone, you have to tell us who you're dropping him for. If it's do I keep Jordan Wilkins, or do I have an empty bench spot? Keep Jordan Wilkins. Why not, right?
Exactly. You never get the context with that.
Keenum, Bortles, or Flacco? I would keep Keenum because he's going to get the Chargers. Chargers defense doesn't look great. Oakland's defense sucks, and Kansas City's defense is just brutal.
Yeah, Keenum, he's got the matchups. Although I would like to see Bortles' schedule because Bortles going to win people championships again this year.
Did New England really just get Josh Gordon? Is that a real thing?
Is it? I don't think so.
Someone just said that. But there's a lot of fake news going on in this chat. I haven't been paying attention. Yeah. It would be very, very timely for us if that was the case.
No, I think people would go. I'm looking at Twitter. I think they'd be going a little bit more ballistic if that was happening.
I don't
know.
Look
for the blue check for the people tweeting it.
It wasn't anyone tweeting it. It was just someone in the chat said that. But they've now derailed the chat. Does Adrian Peterson have flex value in week 3? He always has flex value because he might score a touchdown, but
right.
Just play him again once he's coming off a bye week. Then he'll be great.
Yeah, that's it. I think that's all you're ever looking at is flex value for him.
Do I start to be concerned about Demaryius Thomas? No.
Why?
I don't. What this person
Oh, because he got banged up yesterday, maybe?
He didn't get banged up, though, did he?
Yeah, he did. He was actually crawling off the field at one point.
No, that was Emmanuel Sanders.
No, that was Demaryius Thomas.
No, Sanders did the same thing, but they both came back.
Oh, no. Yeah, Demaryius Thomas was on all fours crawling off the sideline.
Should I trade Drake for Golden Tate? Deep at running back, thin at wide receiver? I'd do better than Golden Tate, to be perfectly honest.
If it's in a PPR, I don't mind it, but I would still try to do better for your point. Also, running backs have more value. There's just so few that are quality.
Thomas asks, buy low on Josh Gordon if I only had to give up Geronimo Allison. I would say yes to that. Just to roll the dice. You're never playing Allison anyway.
Josh Gordon ending up on one of the teams from ending up in Dallas or on the Eagles right now, that his value would skyrocket.
George Kittle or Disley? I'd keep Kittle.
Kittle
me timbers. Hold on to Chris Carson. I'm hoping he goes off tonight for both. Yes. Yeah, hold on to Chris Carson. Absolutely.
Yeah, hold on to Chris. I think Rashard Penny's happening, but he's got a little a hill to climb there to get to it.
John Brown or Jamison Crowder off waivers?
Brown.
Oh, sorry, or Deshaun Jackson.
Brown
for me as well. It would be Brown, Crowder, then Deshaun Jackson. Good idea to sell high on Amari Cooper if you can. I don't know if anyone's buying.
The good idea was not drafting him in the first place and falling into this trap for the third straight season.
Would you trade Sanders, Marvin Jones, and James White for DeAndre Hopkins? I'd consider it. Depending on the size of your league, you always have to weigh in who are the two people you can pick up to replace
that's
replace
a
those
hell
people.
of a lot to give up.
Let's say John Brown's available and you can get him. So then you start thinking about bench spots. Then the trade becomes: would you trade Sanders, Marvin Jones, and James White for Hopkins and John Brown? I would make that deal.
Yeah, then definitely, yeah. And look at the person. Here's what some people don't do enough. Look at the person's team and look at some of the lower rung players that he's going to have to drop. He might have a flyer on his bench that you want.
Is it time to drop Marquise Goodwin? No.
No.
He was hurt yesterday. Would you trade Aaron Jones for Alshon Jeffrey? I would.
Yes.
Let's see. Sell Chris Hogan? I don't think so. I think that Chris Hogan might be a nice buy coming off this game because people are like, oh, he scored 2 touchdowns. Let me get rid of him while he still has value. But Chris Hogan does have value.
Well, because you also got the people who are like, but look at where the yards were. There weren't there. It was just the touchdowns.
Would you drop Antonio Gates for Austin Hooper, O.J. Howard? O.J. Howard.
Oh, yes. Howard, yes.
Drop Kenny Stills, pick up Kenny Galladay? That's a lateral move. I like both of them, but
I do. I find a way to own both.
Yeah, I you know what? Galladay might be more valuable. But if Parker keeps sitting out, you'd want Stills. That's a really tough situation because they're both cluttered, right?
Yeah, and I said, look, after one game, everybody jumps off the bandwagon.
All right, would you trade George Kittle for Aaron Jones?
Probably if I'm looking for a running back flyer, depending on who my other tight end was.
And that's the thing. It depends on who the other tight end is in that situation. All right, final 2. Should I trade Keenan Allen for Leonard Fournette? I have Antonio Brown and Tyreek Hill. I still wouldn't.
No, I wouldn't.
If you're a Connor owner, what would you be willing to trade to get Bell? We covered all of this at the very beginning. Actually, you know what? At the 14-minute mark of this show, we went extensively through this, so you can just rewind and go watch that. Far more comprehensive. Should I trade Josh Gordon for Ted Ginn? I would not.
No, I would not either.
Should I hold on to Dez Bryant? There was no reason for you to have Dez Bryant in the first place.
No.
Any final one? Rest of the season, Marvin Jones or Kenny Galladay? I really pray it's Marvin Jones for my sake, but it could be Galladay.
I think it's going to end up like I told you. I said 3 wide receivers from this team inside the top 40, but I was not thinking Kenny Golladay was going to be number 2.
All right, pick 2 to own. Goodwin, Godwin, or John Brown? Goodwin and John Brown for me.
Yes, same.
Last one, the nerd asks, who should I pick up full point PPR? Chris Carson, Kerryon Johnson, Sony Michel, or Peyton Barber? I would stick with Chris Carson in that. Carson, then
I
Barber.
would stick with Chris Carson for now, but yeah, I mean, we could see tonight. You might have an answer like Chris Carson looks miserable, and then you can make the move. And if it's so, I'm going to go with Kerryon, and hopefully that the Lions figure out that they need to use him more.
Should I drop Funchess, Marquise Goodwin for a stash of Baldwin? There's no one. If those are your 2 worst guys, I guess I drop Goodwin.
Yeah, I guess so too. This is the most number two left questions we've ever had.
Yeah, that is true. But it just keeps posting. George K says, "I guess I go F myself." Yeah, that's good, George K. Go fuck yourself. Have that.
Is that a question or is that a statement?
That's a statement. I think he just wants to go fuck himself. So you just do what you got to do, man. It's out there.
Okay.
Jake's got to go because the Athletic has a meeting right now. So check out all Jake's work at the Athletic and follow him at AllInKid on Twitter because he answers questions up there too. And you got to check the link. What do you got coming for us this week at the Athletic?
The waivers tonight, it's midnight release. I told you, you taught me that. Waivers this midnight, rankings tomorrow midnight, matchup rankings Wednesday midnight, and then they're updated throughout the week. All in Sports Podcast.
All in Sports Podcast. Subscribe on iTunes and wherever you can do that. Plus, you can follow me at the PME. Do you think that Kerryon Johnson's a number 2 running back going forward this year? No, he's not.
No, he's a flex. We could hope for it, but the Lions are not proving yet.
All right, I'm Pat Mayo. You can follow me at the PME on Twitter. Check out the waiver column in the description, plus that DK Tips article that I just talked about. That'll get updated after the Monday Nighter and again before waivers clear on Tuesday night. Ranking show tomorrow. I got golf out already. MMA coming up later in the week. Then DK show, pick show, injury update live again Sunday morning, 10 a.m. And we're here with you 9:30 a.m. every single Monday morning. Spread the word. Give us a like before you get out of here. We see the people watching. Help keep the show free and help keep us live so we can try to get to as many of your questions as possible. All right? Thank you all for watching. I'm Pat Mayo. I'll see you next time.